This isn't the traditional painter you were to find in the 1400s. Once I started looking closer into the painter's artwork, I was immediately drawn in. I am drawn into Hieronymus Bosch's paintings because I love his style. I've done a few paintings, and I like the abstract style of painting. Secondly, Bosch does some very bold symbolism in his work, especially for his time. Hieronymus Bosch lived to be 66 years old. He was an early Netherlands painter of the 15th and 16th centuries. Bosch's paintings describe sin and human moral failings. He used images of demons, half human, half animal, and machines to evoke fear and confusion to portray the evil man. A good example of this is Bosch's painting, Last Judgment Triptych. In class, we have learned about several Last Judgments, and I would have to say Bosch was similar to what Giselbertus did in his Last Judgment. They look nowhere close to being the same, but they have the same type of effects. Of course, Bosch's version is scary and graphic. His work contains so many different symbolic figures, and he is so original with his use of iconography. At this point in looking at his artwork, I am wondering more about Bosch. In my research, I found some solid facts about him. Bosch was a pessimistic and stern moralist. He didn't sugarcoat anything either. His paintings and symbolism are still a mystery, but he has shown that the world can be corrupted by man's presence. When looking at his paintings, I think it is very easy to relate Bosch to Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. Lewis was a lot like Bosch in a sense of making a mockery of man's presence. On a visual standpoint, both Bosch and Carroll's work are very similar. The use of animals playing a larger role than normal in the artwork is so daring, and I love that about artists. When looking at Bosch's paintings, you wouldn't think this guy painted religious views. However, his themes were very religious. His choice of symbols represent the temptation and eventual ensnarement of man's earthly evils. Taking a look at Garden of Earthly Delights is a prime example of Bosch's work. There are so many different things going on in this painting. On the left panel, Adam and Eve are sitting before God the Father in the Garden of Eden. This theme is very religious. The symbols aren't religious, there is a dark side. There are dark creatures lurking around all over in the first panel of the triptych. The animals can represent the devil. Adam and Eve are supposed to be looked up to in context of religious people. Bosch painted some scary, evil-looking creatures right next to Adam and Eve. In his time, I am very sure that he was judged because he is just destroying all of these religious standpoints. I love that Bosch had the balls to really do this. In the middle panel, there are a lot of sexual-looking acts taking place, but it is not explicitly shown. I think that as you take a look at this painting, you should come up with your own thoughts of what is going on. Bosch is representing man's sinful pleasures. I believe in the middle panel. Also, I think the way Bosch painted these sins of man is to make a joke of them. He paints this middle panel so obnoxiously clever and symbolic that I think he was thinking what a joke some people are. I don't know where Bosch stood socially because there is very little known about him, but I can only imagine that he was out of place socially. Even though this middle panel is very insane, I still appreciate Bosch for doing this the way he did. It takes a lot to paint something like this, even in today's world. In the third panel is hell. Hell is where you go when you give in to sin. Bosch started this triptych with Adam and Eve to the middle panel of several people all ready to give in to temptation. The right panel is where you go if you give in to the temptation. This hell that Bosch created is so authentic, and it makes me want to look deeper and deeper into the mind of how he came up with this. This whole section is just disturbing and makes me cringe, but this is what I find interesting about Bosch. He is painted so well that the people looking at his paintings can feel some kind of emotion from his work. Another famous work of Bosch is the Cure of Folly. This painting is a surgeon taking something from a man's head with a nun and a monk watching. This is all taking place somewhere with green lands. The whole scene is within a circle. There is a dark space surrounding the panel. There are words inscribed in calligraphy. It says, "Master, cut the stone out quickly. My name is Lubert Dawes." Since I don't know exactly what Bosch was meaning to represent by this painting, I can only imagine what is going on. Those words on the painting, to me, are directed towards the man sitting in the chair. He is telling the doctor to cut some skull or flesh out of his head. Maybe this man has done something sinful, and this is the way he is taking that sin away. It is very interesting that the nun has a book on her head. She is just staring at this man who is getting something cut out of his head, and she isn't even fazed by it. The nun almost looks bored, as if she sees this happen all too often. The monk almost looks as if he is blessing this procedure or praying. Nonetheless, neither one of these people look like they are disgusted by what is happening. I have also been thinking, maybe this painting is more realistic of something that did happen. I think this because of the landscape in the background. I also think the way that this is painted in a circle, maybe Bosch was nosy and watched it all happen. These are what I am thinking the meaning is of this painting. What is known about this painting is Bosch did this painting as a metaphor. The metaphor is that there is a cure for madness and stupidity. This metaphor is confirmed because of the patient's name Lubert, for Dutch vernacular tradition which gave the name to fools and idiots. Back in Bosch's day, it was actually a comedy to cut the stupid out of fools. People would actually put on a play for this act, too. After the stupid is removed, the patient is cured and smart in the play. A medical historian does strongly believe this kind of thing never really happened where people literally had the stupid cut out of their head. Why did Bosch decide to paint this painting, The Cure of Folly? I think Bosch painted this because he is making fun of the people putting on the plays of this procedure. It is weird though, because back in Bosch's day there was a cure for insanity. The way this was done was having holes drilled into the patient's head. So, the answer to whether this painting is painted on pure imagination or as a metaphor is yes to both of these. As I dig up more information, I am able to find real answers to the symbolism in the paintings, or in this painting. The surgeon is wearing an upside-down type of hat. In some of Bosch's other paintings, the upside-down hat was worn by sinners doomed to hellfire. In this scene, the surgeon is marked as an unskilled trickster posing as a universally trained scholar. The monk and the nun were just witnesses of this chemical experiment. Lubert brought a huge purse with him to be ready to pay the surgeon if he is able to make Lubert smart. Bosch did impressive work with oil painting back in the late 1400s. Since he was a painter back many years ago, it's so hard to know why Bosch painted the way he does. Is he painting just what he is thinking of, or are his ideas very thought out and have deeper meanings? This question can't be answered because no one has a set-in-stone answer. I'm nowhere near up to date with all of the religious things that took place back in Bosch's time. All I know is what I find by the research I find on this painter. The more I find on him, the more I am intrigued. He is very inspiring and so brave for being able to paint such a symbolic and controversial concepts. I love his abstract painting style, but he is still realistic. I believe that this is the kind of painter I've been growing to be.